Why are sensitive people Earth's protectors? Well, I think asking your parents what kind of a kid you were might be an answer. My parents love to tell the story of living in New Mexico on the farm. I was 3 years old, and I delighted in sticking my finger in the red anthill, picking it out with all the ants crawling around on my finger and just watching them. I was crying. Little, I was sobbing because it hurt, but I wouldn't knock them off because it was too fascinating to watch them. When I was 12, my walls were covered in insect displays that I'd done on paper and boards and things for Girl Scouts. And we were moving, and the movers came and asked my mother what to do with all the stuff in the boys' room. Both of those examples would lead you to believe that you were, as a child, sensitive to nature. Now, if you don't have any stories, then we're going to start in with something else. Have you ever stopped and looked at a ladybug? Have you ever been in a state of wonder over a chameleon? Or, oh, how about a tree frog? People who are Earth's protectors typically notice, sure, they notice the flower and a rose by any other name and all that. But in general, they notice the little things, the change of the seasons. Those things really matter, because it's sad to say, but although some people are really sensitive to other people, they see a homeless man, or they see a child with torn shoes, or they see somebody asking for money for a relative who's in a hospital and they can't pay for it. Any of those kinds of things. But that's not always the same with nature. Nature is when, more than likely, someone has pointed something out to you as a child that intrigued you. Maybe it was a worm. My dad used to fish all the time, and he would always hook the worms. It sure bothered me. And it was just a little tiny worm. It seemed so unfair. Unless I was eating the fish, then of course that's a different story. And cleaning the fish was tough too. It was all a matter of how my father explained it to me, how he helped me to understand that we're all predators. We all have to eat something. I don't know if the lettuce screams when I bite into it, but maybe it does. I don't know. But I do know that everything the earth provides for me, the air, the water, the sunshine, the shelter, either the shelter in a mountain or a tunnel of some kind, or the shelter I can build from the trees that I find. We have to be sensitive in order to appreciate and see what's going on in the world now. There are so many things that have changed so much. When you look at the statistics, the graphs, especially the graphs are one of the most wonderful things to look at, to see how temperatures have changed in the ocean. And the animals depend on the temperatures that they were raised in. They don't expect the temperatures to change. They can't live with some of the other temperatures. In the same way that trees are dying because they can't live with the change in temperatures. I have a friend who has a farm with lots of trees, and he has been planting trees that were supposed to be at a lower temperature, but because the climate has changed and it's gotten hotter, he's been successful putting them on the edge of his place. That's sensitivity. That's an earth protector, and he does. He really cares a lot about the earth, and he's very attentive to making sure that everything that he grows, as we do here, is not exposed to chemicals. You see the bananas are blowing around. We're on the very top of the mountains, so when there is wind, we get it. and those are things to notice too. What kind of animals eat the bananas? What kind of insects eat the bananas? What kind of food is required for a chameleon to live? Why did the owl that we raised enjoy sitting by the oil lamps? What was it eating? All of those different aspects that require us to be concerned are protectors of the earth. And then we take it much further, much further. I mean, people go marching for the earth in cold weather and rainy weather and windy weather and all kinds of different exposures that may not be the best for them. But they do it because they want to protect the earth. I'm out here today and the sun is pretty warm, but it's really the wind it's very noisy. And it can be very annoying when my camera starts to wiggle because of the wind. But yet, I'm trying to make a point. I'm trying to help you to understand that if you are a sensitive person, if you think you're overreacting to 1,763 pop bottles on the road out in front of your house, or driving along and seeing 3 dead animals, or noticing that the wildflowers haven't come out this year, the ones that you always watched as a child, or noticing that the stars you normally can look up and see, you can't see anymore, or in the daytime, you look up and you see the sky here? It's white clouds and blue sky. And if you look up where you live and it's coffee colored, it's probably telling you something. But unless you're sensitive to that, you say, oh, well, it's the way it is in a big city. Well, the oh, well this is probably why you're coughing. Your child has got pneumonia, and even your cat's not doing as well as it should. All those things matter. And it really requires you to have sensitivity. I know I can drive by a farm and see somebody out there spraying. And if it's an organic farm, they probably don't have anything on that protects them. But if it's not an organic farm, they'll have on a mask with holes on it to breathe the right way, and they'll have a plastic thing over their head and covered, and they may have a whole complete suit on. Might have gloves on. Their shoes might be covered to protect them, which is good. I mean, that's what they should be doing. But what they're spraying on the plants isn't good for you and I. It doesn't belong in our systems. That's part of what we learn when we start to pay attention to, and many people don't, all the wild things that are out that we can eat. You know, to walk around with, it's a fascinating opportunity when you walk around with someone who is a forager. They know where to look for a certain kind of mushroom that they like, or they know where to look for a certain spice that they enjoy putting in their food, or they know where to look for a certain vegetable or fruit that grows wild. Now, the big catch, of course, is that if you're buying, if you're abstracting wild food, it's very small. Where if you're having something that's hybrid or something that's been specifically found a strain that was bigger, it's probably bigger. Like the blueberries, the organic blueberries I get from Peru, it's cooler in Peru, and so they grow there and they bring them in, and some of them are pretty big. But when you look at the wild blueberries that are collected by some people, oh my goodness, they're not much bigger than the head of a pin, some of them. And they're mature. They're really tiny, 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 tiny. And that's because they haven't been following a strain to get a larger blueberry. It doesn't necessarily mean they're hybrids. It just means that the strain hasn't been followed by somebody. They're just wild. And it's so important to see the really subtle things, because when you're talking about protecting the earth, you've got to have examples. You've got to. Corporate people are trying to sabotage you because you've gone to the board of your local chamber of commerce and you've asked for a particular type of footing on the bridge that they're putting in over a small area. It's going to be in either brick or wood or concrete, and you're saying, well, yeah, but the covering that people walk on that needs to be gripper, so they can grip their shoes on it, but it doesn't need to be made out of one thing, even though the other thing is going to cost $40 more for the bridge, and is harder to put down. Okay, so you've got two things that you've got to fight for. We need more labor and we need more money. And you could say, well, I'll pay the $40 and my son will put it down. Or you could fight. But you got to have the facts. You've got to be able to show them why what you're asking for is safer for school children, for adults, for anybody, for dogs on their paws. You have to bring out the reasons. And the only way you're going to do that, if you're sensitive enough to notice what's going on and then bring it up and then fight for it. It's hard. That's why I call them grief warriors. Any of you who are sad like I am, who feel like others are constantly sabotaging what you're trying to get taken care of, the things you're trying to get right about taking care of our planet. And it doesn't seem to be possible because so many people think it's not worth it. Is breathing worth it? If you have a 2-month-old baby and they can't breathe, how's that make you feel? Those are the kinds of things we have to be able to bring up. They have to be able to hear us talk about it in the Chamber of Commerce meeting or the Board of Directors meeting, whatever it is. You've got to have your facts straight. Got to compare apples to apples and not apples to oranges. You've got to be able to say, if we do it this way and not this way, this is what the cost is going to be. And remember, the person who's selling the product will sabotage you. But you're not selling the product, you're selling your soul. And you've got to let them know that. You've got to let them know that you, down deep in you feel the pain of the earth. You acknowledge the challenges that the earth is going through. You acknowledge why people are sick, especially children and the elderly are sick, because they're exposed to different chemicals and other toxic, whatever toxic things are out there. Because you've looked it up, you've checked it out, you've made an effort to get some of the answers to what's going on. And it really matters a lot. Because you just don't know what statement you make, what sentence you write down, what point you bring up is going to make a difference in helping the earth. You just never know. But what you have to know is that your passion is always there. You're always there for the right reasons. Because if anyone ever finds out you're there because your second cousin once removed is selling that product and wants to get the business, then you're stuck. You've lost the trust. There's too little trust, too little honesty, too little straightforward, I care and therefore I do feelings around. That's tough. It's really tough. It means that you've got to try so much harder than anybody else to get somebody to notice, especially if it's more expensive. And yet, if it's not, let's say it's more expensive, but it lasts 50% longer, you need to point that out. You need to make sure they understand that. Make sure they're listening to you. That it's not just comparing one thing to the other. It's the fact that the other one lasts longer. The one that you're talking about. Yes, it costs 10% more, but it lasts 50% longer, so you're saving money. Those facts have got to be there when you're defending the earth. And you have to do the same thing with your father, your cousin, your aunt, your uncle. Whoever it is who's arguing with you about why they're justified in making 7 trips to Europe in 1 year. Or in 1 summer, depending on how careless they are. And it's hard too, especially with family. Because when family don't want to listen to you, you know, it's easier to walk away than it is to argue. And yet, if you walk away, they don't know the truth. Their kids don't know the truth, and the grandkids don't know the truth. And if you walk away from all the family members, then all of them don't know the truth. And that's a really hard thing to sleep on at night, knowing that you're getting other people to listen to you, but you can't get your family to listen to you. And that happens a lot. It really does. I don't know why that has to be that way, but somehow there's always somebody that has to prove you're wrong to make them feel bigger in the family and feed their ego. And sometimes that's exactly the reason that you have to get together with other birds of a feather, other sensitive, earth-honoring, earth-protecting people, and talk with them and listen to what they have to say about what they've researched, what kind of things they've found, what sort of things people have reacted positively to. Whatever it takes, you need to check that out. Not just so you've got the answers for your family or your friends or the people you run into, but so you've got the answers for yourself, so that you know you're not alone, so that you actually have somebody to interact with, to be a part of the grief warriors, to go forward and make a difference. There needs to be, together we can always do more. There's never any question about that. Being together makes all the difference in the world. And being sensitive, my dog here is reminding me, being sensitive to those insects and to the animals and what they need that they're not getting. And maybe their homestead has been taken away because the trees that they always used have been cut down. Whatever it is, you need to find that out. You need to ask about that. You need to give somebody the information that they need to make a difference in that situation. It's so important because all of life is here for one reason or another. We're all interconnected. All of our hearts are interconnected in that every heart needs air and water, food and shelter. That's how it works. Different shelters, of course, different food, of course. But the air, now, some of the animals can drink pretty crappy water, but we can't. But what's important to remember is we're all interconnected. We're interconnected with the trees that give us the oxygen. We're interconnected with the stones in the rivers that release minute amounts of minerals into the water we drink. so that we have the minute amount of minerals that we need in our bodies to keep us healthy. There's so much tiny little things that need to be noticed. And that's why we need sensitive people, because other people won't notice it and won't do anything about it. So you've got to be both sensitive and a warrior, because you've got to go forward and fight for what you need to have done, what you know the earth needs. Please do that. We have. There have been several of us have worked for the last 34 years, or fewer, some of them, but I have for 34 years. I started an organization, an affiliate of another nonprofit. I've been a nonprofit, and we've done lots of different things. We've done children's programs, we built community centers, we've built houses. Just take a look down below where you can ask me questions about what we talked about today. But take a look at Summerland-volunteer-artists and .org, O-R-G, and we both have items to sell for the monastery that are reminders of taking care of our earth, because that's what we want to do, is take care of our earth. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for listening. And if you have questions, just leave them down there. I'll get them.